So Blood and Guts is coming up, and Dave Meltzer thinks Team AEW for the Blood and Guts match should be an all-star team rather than the one seemingly, you can see this, right? Okay, good. Yes. Rather than the one seemingly teased on last night's Dynamite of Mark Briscoe confirmed, the Acclaimed and Kyle O'Reilly. I just thought that Team AEW should be a real all-star team, Swerve and Ospreay and Joe type guys as opposed to the Acclaimed. So Meltzer holding his feet to the fire, Tony Khan's feet to the fire a little bit here, I guess you could call it that. But then it was also revealed on this last Dynamite, I guess Swerve is the captain of Team AEW. So I believe it's like Swerve, Mark Briscoe, the Acclaimed, and Kyle O'Reilly. And even Dave saying like this match is great, but you want an all-star team. So Dave also kind of boo-booing it. Your thoughts on that and your thoughts on Blood and Guts coming up? Once an event that I thought was going to put them over the tipping point of like 1.5 million viewers. Pandemic happens. They come back. They never fully recover. And these matches have all just been sloppy shop. And for the most part, in my opinion, but your thoughts on it coming up?
This Blood and Guts is not exciting to me. And this is one of their big shows. And what it feels like is when WWE was in that era where they had, we've got Hell in a Cell coming up. We've got TLC coming up, where it's like, you've had the show planned, but they didn't necessarily build up to a Blood and Guts show through their storyline. They just looked and saw, we got Blood and Guts in 3 months.
I know. We'll turn the lights red. Exactly. Seth will beat him with a toolbox.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel like there's a need for this. And this is another situation where I feel Swerve is being done dirty, because you are putting him on a team that's kind of a makeshift team. They're really not putting AEW over. They haven't done a good job putting AEW over since the start. And it's funny. It's like Tony Khan is not learning from any of the mistakes that WCW made, some of which, yes. But NWO, the gift and a curse of NWO was they were super cool. They were this cool stable of cool heels. But the problem was that they made WCW, which was your bread and butter brand, they made that look uncool. They would have the NWO guys go on TV and say, did you guys come to see WCW? And everybody would boo and say, no, we didn't. And when NWO cooled off, WCW was already cold, so there was nothing to do. And they went downhill. So they're running into that risk with AEW, except the anti-AEW heels, the Elite, are not cool. I think it's a discount version of the NWO. I think they're doing a bad job coming off as cool heels, which I don't think it should be a thing. And I don't think that the Elite are these world beaters who are coming in. It just looks like amateur hour where they're pretending to be these heel authority figures. But at the same time, you have authority figures in AEW. Nobody knows where the power lies. And it's going to lead to this Blood and Guts match where Team AEW, I know Meltzer said that, but you could just look at Team AEW and see these are not the top stars of AEW. The only top star is the world champion Swerve. So for him to be surrounded by mid-carders makes him look bad. And I have a fleeting feeling that Team AEW is going to lose that match.
Man, they probably will. And the story was right there, dude. The story was right there. The Elite beats up all sort of Tony's pillars. Oh, my pillars, they're great. And then it's like a disheveled Tony, like having to assemble guys who don't want to work together or like are maybe resentful towards him for how he's let these idiots take over the company. And then it builds up to this, like, it's all right there. I could write this blindfolded backwards, upside down. I could write this. It's just so much storytelling on the table for Swerve to just go, and I'm the leader of Team AEW. Yeah. What? Like, where did that happen? What? Like, and then I believe, the match at Wembley, All In, is Danielson versus Swerve, right? Because he won the Owen Hart tournament. So, like, I never thought I'd go, oh, Danielson, who gives a, but that's what AEW's done to people, and it's unfortunate, man. Damn, it's. Somebody, Conan, send Swerve a lifeline here, because he just shouldn't even be involved in this. I don't know. It should have been like, the champion aligning with Tony Khan, and then they go against the Elite or whatever. But they didn't tell that story at all. It's just been Swerve coming out, cutting promos, and to, like you said, lean into the culture. Like, Swerve raps, right? Why don't we see him in the studio? Why don't we see him like doing? He just comes out with a fur coat and talks, and then he leaves, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, I I don't have confidence in AEW being able to lean into black culture because it's easy to say, but it's such a hard vibe to catch and to see a show and be like, this is cool. Like, even though it is black culture, it's cool. I'm not saying this, and you know this, Phil, I'm not saying this to be like a DEI person where it's like, we need to be equal.
Yeah.
Everybody needs like representation. Like, I'm saying this because black people are just cooler. Black culture is just cooler. Like, it's just when you watch a show that has been influenced by black people, it's something you want to see. It's something you get influenced by. And that's what AEW needs more of. It shouldn't be this dorky wrestling show. And to your point about telling stories, I completely agree with you in terms of people working together who shouldn't. Because now in hindsight that we've seen Hangman Adam Page, he returned and he lost after 2 matches in a tournament, which is one of the worst bookings of a return I've ever seen. You could have had Hangman Adam Page come back and work with Swerve on Team AEW as kind of like a Sting character. Because Sting, his friends turned on him, and he came back kind of mopey in that crow gimmick, and he became the biggest star of WCW, and he made WCW look cool. You could have done that with Hangman Adam Page instead of what they did.
Nope, but instead, Tony's like, we're just going to do it my way, and it's not going to make any sense. So, you talk about free agents, people, the Stephanie Vaquer stuff. I covered that on the last show. We can talk a bit about that. What are your thoughts on Stephanie Vaquer, Tony seemingly fumbling it, and then, HBK swooping in and Triple H swooping in, getting her on I believe they're in Monterrey, like today in Mexico. So they put her right on that card, and people, putting her in NXT, she'll be in the LWO. And I'm sitting there like, even if she is, bro, who gives a but and they're not going to do that. But even if that did happen, like, I mean, is that really such a bad? I don't like WWE's white hot right now. So anyways, though, Stephanie Vaquer, man, and then also another talent called Delta, who I guess is a big deal in like Australia. I'm unfamiliar. I definitely have seen the name. I've definitely seen the lady, but I'm not familiar with her work. But I guess they swooped in and got this Delta girl as well. So your thoughts on that? Like, basically, Tony Khan handed WWE, made this girl look bigger than the biggest paid all-time Mercedes Moné, biggest paid women's wrestler of all time. Vaquer looked better than her, was more over on the pay-per-view with the AEW audience. WWE's been scouting her for a long time, but they just swoop in and steal her, and Tony basically gets her a job and fumbles her. Not that if she signed there, it would have been good anyways, because she'd have been on Ring of Honor in 2 weeks. But either way, though, sorry, your thoughts on the whole Vaquer situation?
I think it's hilarious that she had her WWE tryout on AEW television, and not only AEW television, on AEW pay-per-view. It's hilarious.
Against the top paid girl, against the former, like, she was a top girl, whether you like her in AEW. Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, was presented as a top female talent in WWE. She comes over, the highest paid, whatever, whether you like her or not. Vaquer comes over, looks better than her in that style of match, like whatever they were trying to do. Everybody said it, even the Eric Bischoff said it. But sorry, you go ahead on the situation.
Yeah, I just thought it was unbelievable. It's funny because if you go to my timeline, you go to anybody's timeline after that match, it's like, I thought, and I still think, Stephanie Vaquer, until the main event, which was a great main event, but until that main event, she was the biggest star of the show. And I can still argue she was, even with that main event. Yep. And I was just saying, sign Stephanie Vaquer. And I was saying that to AEW. I had no idea that WWE would be in the mix. WWE always wants to sign people AEW is interested in. But because she was on AEW TV, I just figured, okay, so AEW must have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted, which that's a mistake you make with AEW, given how disorganized they are. But I was just like, man, AEW, you look at AEW in the landscape, women's wrestling is going to save AEW. Okay, even though AEW does not know how to book women, they've had this fall into their lap where their big stars are coming back. Britt Baker's back. She's going to feud with Mercedes, which is a hot feud. This Tony Storm, Ryan May thing is a hot feud. You talk about free agency. Like, you look at all these big money free agents, Okada, even Max Caster said on AEW's TV, AEW ruined his career. Whether that's a joke or not, that is a serious narrative that's going on, which I do believe that AEW does not know what to do with one of the greatest wrestlers of our generation. They've ruined his career. You look at Mercedes Moné, she's starting to get hot now, but again, they spent a lot of money on Mercedes. They spent a lot of money on Will, and they're not getting the returns out of that. They really didn't get Mariah May for that much. Mariah May was a relative unknown from Stardom, and she's been more effective than any of them in terms of the corner. You can say the same about Mina Shirakawa. So
she's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, they've been getting more out of these discount free agents, and I mean that with all due respect in terms of what they paid for them, that they are from these mainstream free agents. And I just think that the idea that Stephanie Vaquer is coming to WWE is a huge steal for the narrative in terms of WWE being the cooler place to go. WWE stealing somebody who was just on AEW television from right under their nose, like we used to see in the Monday Night Wars. And I think it's so hilarious. You want to bring in Dave Meltzer and the amateur hour AEW PR machine is now trying to villainize Stephanie Vaquer and saying she's not honoring her dates and she's not doing as she's told. This is a wrestling business, my guy. Like, let's not act like this doesn't go on all the time in pro wrestling and that Stephanie Vaquer has burned her bridges. If you're talented in wrestling, you could burn bridges from here to Kingdom Come. Okay, those bridges can look like the Harlem Heat logo with all that fire. If you're talented, Jim Cornette has burned every bridge he's ever met, and he's got one of the biggest podcasts in the world because of sheer talent. So I don't want to hear shit about burning bridges and all these dates you're supposed to honor and any of that. WWE got somebody that AEW should have gotten. She went from AEW TV to WWE, and niggas mad. That's all that is.
It's so true. And like, I called it out immediately. I pointed it out. I highlighted it. I believe on the last live show, I just said, look, the new initiative is Dave is going out there. Matt Morgan was laughing his ass off because I was playing him this clip of Dave saying Mistico's a legit top guy, he's like a true global star. These are the words coming out of Dave's mouth about Mistico, dude. And his initiative right now is getting all the Mexicos over because now Wrestle Dream is presented as AEW, Ring of Honor, Stardom, New Japan, and CMLL crossover. And that's what the Forbidden Door was the beginning of that. And if you look at the Wrestle Dream promo they have so far, it has all those logos of those different companies in that. And so right now, Dave Meltzer's initiative. So just a bit ago when NXT started beating AEW in the ratings, his initiative was like, trick is this. He's not good. He was good in this main event, but he's not really good though, you know? And then now the initiative is like, Mistico's a global superstar. And this is what Dave said. He literally said, I don't know how good he drew on this show, but he's a legit global. And it's what the now and then it's like burying Vaquer and just because if it just whatever doesn't go Tony's way, and you're gonna see it in this lucha areas where he's really gonna put a lot of stock, like Hechicero being brought in. So the agenda, if you will, is going to be focused on that. And yes, burying Vaquer just like clockwork. It just never ceases to amaze me. So like Natalya was about to be a free agent. It was announced that she actually re-signed with WWE, or they worked out a deal. And then, you see the sickos coming out. Oh, I don't have to pretend to like Natalya. Thank God I can stop pretending Natty and AEW would have been good. Jesus. These people are
just leading into the fact that yes, we are bad faith, and they're the first people to always say bad faith criticism, which
they're
I don't have a
fucking
problem
bots,
with,
bro. They're bots.
But now they're admitting that, oh, good, I don't have to play this role.
It's messed up, man, for real. And that's what most of it is. Like, there was some guy going at Eric harshly, and it was just this AEW bot account. And like all the usual suspects follow him, like Mikey Ruckus, and not to call people, I'm just calling this what it is. You know what I mean? And like the no DQ writers and all follow this dude. And he's like, I'm 12. Why are you talking to kids, sicko? After he's like poking the bear at Bischoff over AEW, and his profile pictures MJF and his banners, the Young Bucks and all that. His whole personality is AEW. And it's like, you guys don't understand how this pushes people away from wanting to watch the goddamn show, dude. Like, there's people who genuinely want this to, I don't know, I put over the whole Mercedes Britt Baker segment, but then I still, because I laugh at other things, I make fun of other things, you get pigeonholed. And this fan base, man, they just don't understand. Or are they bots working for AEW? Who knows? Tony Khan's getting accused of a lot of that. He's being investigated actually by the FBI, which we'll talk about in a minute. But to me, man, the fan base, it can't be said enough. They push you away. And then to what you were saying with the free agents, they make AEW seem less important than the free agents. And even if you want to call them discount free agents, okay, let's say Mariah May's a homegrown. You could consider her that, like what she did in Japan is cool, but let's say she's a homegrown AEW talent. Well, what does it say to those talent when Tony Khan's out there in interviews going, oh yeah, and we're going to bring in the best free agents, and oh, if that WWE guy's time is up, and yeah, I love the WWE guys, and free agents. And the people who work there are sitting there going, what the, like, Tony should be going, no, I got the best wrestlers in the world. I've been saying it forever. I truly believe that. And here they are. Like, here's who I think you should be watching out for. And this guy, you know, wiggles his dick over here, and I like that. So I'm going to push him really hard. You know, at least, like, stand behind your guys. But he doesn't do that, man. He's just talking all about the free agents. And then as soon as somebody goes, I don't want to resign, people go silent on them. People are talking about Penta El Zero Miedo, whose WWE is interested in signing, and they were years ago as well. And with Vaquer, actually, WWE was scouting her. She had a tryout like years ago. And so, I mean, they had their eye on her, but that match was definitely why they swooped in and got her. But Observer says with Penta, all signs are at this stage of his career, he's probably going to wind up going for the best offer. And again, I've seen people trashing Penta. And, oh, Lucha Bros, whatever. He's washed. He's past his prime and all this type of shit. It's so gross, man, because everyone loves Penta. I don't know how AEW didn't make a killing off of, like, Lucha masks, too. You want to talk about black culture? What about the Latin American culture as well that WWE is leaning into, you know? And, I don't know. So Penta probably to WWE, and if history is any indicator, Rey Fénix probably not far behind him. Your thoughts on that?
I think Penta to WWE would be a great thing. I think WWE would know what to do with them more. WWE has had kind of a blind spot in that Latin market. There was a time, it was while Rey Mysterio was feuding with Eddie Guerrero, where they were doing gigantic numbers on SmackDown. It was a Dominic Mysterio feud, which, you know, ironically enough, now Dominic Mysterio is doing the biggest numbers on Raw with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley and Judgment Day, and that's a great feud. But I think WWE is better at marketing. And it's funny because AEW has this habit of every single lucha match they have, most of them, they have a spot where they take the luchador's mask off, where they try to go for his mask. It's like become a comical thing at this point. It's like if you watch a lucha mask in AEW, at some point there's going to be a spot where they try to take off his mask. And you're not, outside of their inability to market these masks, you're not going to protect the masks and make them a big deal if you're always trying to rip them off in every match. You know, you got to treat them as sacred, and the AEW doesn't do that. So they really was a waste with, you know, and I will say that there were injuries involved and stuff like that, but the fact that Rey Fénix wasn't pushed up the ladder or Penta wasn't pushed up the ladder, both of these guys, individual and as a tag team, have a certain amount of charisma and are able to work in a way that they can have great matches. You're going to have to get them like an Alex Abrahantes in order to translate, which is just fine. But AEW fumbled the bag heavy with Penta and Rey Fénix if these are their last days in AEW. And I think they'd be great. You know, I don't know if they'd be open to going to NXT, but I'm looking at the landscape of WWE right now, and we're looking at the WrestleMania story is being told. You know, we know a lot of the big players. John Cena's in the mix. The Rock is in the mix. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. Like, it's Gunther. It's probably going to be world champion by then. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. What? It's going to be a very top WrestleMania. So I'm looking at guys like Penta, and I'm looking at Ricky Starks even. I'm looking at Wardlow. And when I look at these guys, I'm not thinking like go to the main roster.
No.
It's about presenting yourself as a big star. The wrestling business is about presenting yourself as a big star.
Larger than life.
Present yourself as a big star so WWE can even look at you and be like, oh my God, we got to elevate him. And that's NXT. I want to see Ricky Starks in NXT. And NXT is a cool show. Like NXT is better than Dynamite right now. You can't look at NXT. Even though it is a developmental brand, NXT is no longer a show where it's like it's not like I'm saying Ricky Starks needs to go to Speed. Like these guys should go to NXT. And if they're in the mix in NXT, that will be a super show. And it'll be a show where guys like Ricky Starks and Penta and Rey Fénix and Stephanie Vaquer can come off as huge stars, big fish in small ponds, and then they can progress to the main roster.